Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to today's Power Hour presented by Advantage Route Systems. Our presenter today is David Krodel, and this week he will be taking us through Mango Supervisor. Please feel free to type your questions into the chat box, and we will review them at the end of the session. Please be advised that we are recording the session, so if there is anything you miss, we will be sending out a link. Again, thank you for joining us today. I will now turn it over to David.
Well, hello, everybody. It's good to be with you again. A couple weeks ago, we had a general introduction to the new 710 software, the Silver Edition. And today we're continuing on with that and taking just one particular product. And this product's been around for quite a while. It's called Mango Supervisor. Let me just go ahead and pull up my first slide here. There we go. This program's been around for a little bit, probably 4 or 5 years now. I think it was back in 2015 or 16 that we released it. But 6 months ago, we started a development program to really put this thing on steroids and add a bunch of functionality, frankly, over the years from different companies. A lot of our ICE companies had a lot of good suggestions about things that could be added to the software that would make it have more utility, make it so that it can be used as a tool during weekends when someone's staying after hours to take orders, etc. So took all that feedback and then we got going on it. And then over the last few months, you've seen a completely new and different product. So today for our discussion, we're going to talk about what is Mango Supervisor. I'm going to give you a few hints on getting the key parts of this thing set up, as well as dive into the handheld functionality. And we'll talk about a few other new items that we're in the process of either adding or have just recently come out that you may not have in the current version you have. Now, before I do get started, I did want to point out that we do have a very good manual that goes along with this product. So make sure if you are currently using the software or you intend to use it, you get a hold of the Mango Supervisor manual. I think it's out on the website. One way or another, we can get you a copy of it. But here, for example, it does help you understand a lot about the product. And basically, a lot of things that I'm covering today, you'll be able to read in the manual and do a lot of this yourself. The nice thing is, this is all in all a fairly simple program to install and use. There's not a lot of complications in getting it going.
Muted. Unmuted.
Okay, so generally speaking, it's pretty easy to get started, but the manual will definitely help. You can also get there from the desktop. The manual is available through F1 Help. So what I'm going to do now is, going back to our PowerPoint here, we'll talk about how to get the thing set up. So in order to do this, there's 2 different pieces that are required. And frankly, if you already have Mango Supervisor working now, then there's really hardly anything you have to do. One of the nice things about the program is each time that the program is updated, we put it out on the desktop with the new version. Then as you go to enter the program, it will automatically figure out if you're on the latest version and what's compatible with the software. And then at that point in time, it will automatically download the current version so that you're always up to date with the software here. A little bit like the handheld, only a little bit easier just by the way it does it. So to get started, there's a couple of areas that you need to go to. The first, let me switch over here to our desktop software. Within the Route Manager desktop software, the one thing that obviously we expect you to have your handheld set up, Mango Mobile running, etc. I didn't really mention earlier, but this software works significantly better if you have RM Live. Now, RM Live means that your data from the handhelds is being transferred back to the desktop each time you complete a transaction. And then that way you can see what's going on throughout the day. I know we've talked a lot about MDM here, and we're going to kind of have that on the screen here back and forth so you can see what's going on. But with MDM, it obviously works better too if you have live data transactions coming back from the handheld. So as each stop is completed, they'll turn gray like you see here and continue on. And overall, that's the overall objective of the Mango Supervisor software, is to duplicate what is going on within MDM on a small Android device, i.e. your phone. And by the way, no, this does not work on Apple. It only does work on an Android device. So to get started, you want to come into your Route Manager software. You'll want to go underneath the list area and come down to Employee Setup and Employees. It's important for every supervisor, if you will, or every user of the Mango Supervisor software that you come in here and click right here on this button that says Allow Login to Mango Mobile Supervisor. So if you're going to have 2 or 3 people using this software, each of them should have this tick box marked. Otherwise, you will not be able to log in, and you have to use your password. So your password up here obviously does come into play as well. So the point is, make sure you check this for all people who are eligible. Now, some of you may ask, well, can I have Mango Supervisor running on the same phone with the Mango mobile or Android software? Absolutely. You can actually have them both running at the same time. And you would be sharing the same password here, no matter which one you're using. So we'll just go ahead. We see that's already marked. We'll go ahead and just hit save. Now, there are just a few settings that you can do within Mango Mobile Supervisor. So if you come here under the modules and then do Mango Supervisor down here at the very bottom, you can come into settings as well. And the only thing that you really have to do here is set up, if you're going to allow your the user of Mango Supervisor to take orders, you have to have a web portal address and an email address here on put into the software at this point. You're probably going to need help with this, so if you want to do orders, definitely contact us, and then we'll help you set up the right parameters. The other thing is, too, Mango Supervisor typically works in an automated mode where every X number of minutes it refreshes the screen, and you can see that here. I think out of the box, we typically put it as 5 minutes. If you want it refreshed automatically, 1 minute, you can do that, or you could, if not, you can do it even less frequently so that you can do it. And likewise, you can even make it where you have to just push a refresh button, which we'll show you here in a little bit as well. Get rid of those crazy circles. Also, the colors tab we're not actually implementing because right now, all of the colors that you'll see here as I go through the presentation are set in branch setup with the new 710, which automatically trickle here into the Mango Dispatch Manager. So just as one example, here, for example, we have 4 or 5 routes. One of them, or a couple of them, are clear, which means that handheld has not been downloaded for today. Yellow means it's been downloaded, but not, the first stop has not begun yet. And then this black one over here, or dark gray, means that we actually did the route completely and finished it and uploaded it for the day. This yellow one, likewise, we've downloaded the route, however, we have not done our first stop yet. So the colors that you're used to in MDM are going to be the very same ones you're going to see on the handheld. And you'll see this here in a second as we switch over to Mango Supervisor. So point in passing is you want to make sure that all of this is set up and configured the way you like it, that you can see clearly on the handheld, etc. Sometimes it takes a little playing around to get it exactly where you want it to be.
In the systems that people can.
So, got some here. Okay. Let's do all of them and do me. Okay, so with those, that's really all of the setup that needs to be done on the desktop. On the handheld, it's a little bit different. The very first time you run this, let me just switch back over to our manual here. There's our manual. As you set it up on the handheld, it's a little bit like installing the Mango mobile software. In other words, you need to come here to a website. So I can find it on the screen here. Let's let's see, we've got unknown sources, downloading the application. So here, for example, you've probably seen this downloading of sh003.46001. Well, that will download the Mango mobile software, but Mango Supervisor is using a 2 here as the last digit. So you want to do the sh003.ars247.com:46002, and that will then tell our server to download the APK or the installation program to your Android device. You can run Mango Supervisor. This only needs to be done one time on the device, and then going forward, the software will automatically be updated each time you go into the software. So this is the trick then on the handheld, is to make sure you put this in and download it correctly. The only other thing that's important is the very first time when you come in to use the software on the, let me zoom this up a little bit here. Let's see here, plus. Okay, not unlike the Mango mobile software, you'll come into a screen that will have you put in the transfer parameters. And what that means is you need to know the IP address or the URL for where you're connecting to for Mango Supervisor. So here you'll know some numbers, you have to have a port number and the password. This is exactly the same as the data that you would have on a Mango mobile handheld. So you can likewise get it from the GPRS settings on the desktop. If you need help, let us know. But the Mango Supervisor software has to know where to get its data and be able to authenticate it with a password right here. So to kind of do a quick recap, you want to make sure you set the employee information where Mango Supervisor can be used. You'll want to make sure that you do the one setting things if you're going to do create an order. And then last but not least, on the handheld device, you'll need to come in, download the software to your device, install it properly, and then come in and put the proper address so that everything can connect up correctly. Okay, I'm going to pause for a second. Do we have any questions that have come in so far? Okay, it doesn't sound like we've had any questions. If you do, I think Kaylee made it clear earlier, just go ahead and type in the little chat window there if you have a question. We don't have email working, so make sure you do use that if you want to raise a question, and we have everybody muted. So just send your questions through that way. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. Okay, so much for preliminaries. Now what we're going to do is dive into the actual software and see it in runtime mode. So to do that, I've got my trusty Samsung hooked up to my desktop so that you can all see what I'm trying to do here. The icon for this software is right here. It's a kind of a diamond with a mango in the middle of it, and that is Mango Mobile Supervisor. To get started, just touch it with your finger, and then you'll be able to come in and choose who you are. So we're just going to go ahead and use admin. There are no unique rights on the handheld itself, so consequently choosing any user with a proper password will allow you to get in and have access to all functionality within the software that I'm showing you here today. So to do that, put your password in. Conveniently left mine out so I'd be able to move in quickly. And as you do this, you come into the Route Totals screen. This is effectively the main menu from which everything else happens. So as you look at this, what you see here are the various routes that are set up in your system. And as you notice, you can have all routes. If you want to filter it somehow, you can go ahead and just pick a single route, for example. However, most of the time, we leave it at all routes so you can see a summary of what's going on. And as you can see here, I had this one route, this dark green one, that we actually started and completed before our presentation today. And their sales for the day were $141.28. So you can see as you move throughout the day, information is accumulated, and you can see a grand total for your company of all sales. Now, if you do not have RM Live, that means the transaction data cannot go back to the desktop immediately. So what that means is as a handheld is uploaded at the end of the day, then these figures will be updated. So by looking here at Route 1 or Route R05, for example, they had here, I'm just using my little marker to help point it out a little bit. They had here scheduled stops was 1, completed is 1, and they skipped a stop and they did no off routes for that particular day. So that's what you're seeing here is a summary. So kind of back to my last point, this won't get updated if you're not using RM Live till everybody uploads their handheld in the day. And then of course everything just jumps from $0 to $1,200, $1,500, whatever the sales are for that particular customer. Okay, so as we look at this information, you can also see totals too of how many stops are scheduled, how many have been completed, and how many have been skipped. We also, as you can see here, have 3 routes that have been downloaded, but nobody has started to run the routes for the day. This is corresponding back here on the desktop to routes 3, 4, and 6. So we'll minimize that. Now, we'll go ahead and just kind of do it in lifetime. I've got Micah helping me today, and we've got a couple of handhelds here so you can see what's happening. So what we're going to do, we'll just go ahead and take Route 3, for example, and I'm going to have her, she's already checked her truck out, she's put her load in, and now she's going to go and do the first stop. So as she does the first stop, we'll see some information change here. Now remember, we had this set up on a 5-minute auto refresh. If I'm too impatient for that, I can just come down here, click the fan, and it will immediately update my information as things are happening. So obviously we haven't quite finished our first stop here. We'll wait a second, and then you'll see in a couple of things are going to happen. As she finishes the first stop, not only will the color change from yellow to, I think it's a light green, but you'll also see some other things happening as well. Okay, well, we're just going to give it a second here. While we're waiting, on Route 3, we'll just kind of, if we highlight that, then we can come in here and see, okay, now colors have changed. Let's see if that changed back on the main. There we go. Okay, sometimes there's a little bit of a lag, so expect 15 to 30 seconds, maybe a minute. So you've noticed now that the route has gone from this yellow to a light green color. And that just means that we've done our first stop. You can see it was actually completed. Now we'll go ahead and do a skip stop for the next one. And while she's doing that, I'm going to come up here in the top right-hand corner. If you notice up here, there's these 3 dots. Well, the 3 dots allow you to see additional information. So I'm going to click on the 3 dots. And notice I have the ability to refresh data. That's going to do the same as the little fan down below. Create a ticket. We'll come back to that in a few minutes. If there are unscheduled orders created on the desktop, I can look at the unscheduled orders and then assign them to somebody. I can give out a release code. So as a supervisor, you do have permission to give out release codes. So if a driver's stuck because a customer hasn't paid their bill or past due, whatever, and you want to do the release code, you can do that as well. Notice also that you have the ability on a map to see where your trucks are. Now, I've kind of skewed this so that they're in 2 different states here, where actually where Brian and Kristen are, but you can see your trucks, and in a smaller scale, you'd be able to obviously zoom in. So if you came in here, just kept pinching your screen, you can zoom in right to where the trucks are, you get it close enough, and of course you'll be able to see the actual street, etc. So that's one of the functionalities, is the ability to see where all your trucks are. Obviously you have the satellite view if you want to go that way, traffic layers if you want to go with that. So once again, giving you a complete view of where your vehicles are. Obviously this can help you as you're trying to dispatch. If you know where a truck is, where your trucks are, and a special order comes in, then you'll be able to do something special with that or be able to assign it to someone. Okay, so let me keep on going here. We see the trucks, being able to optimize the route. Here's the color key. So if you really don't remember all the colors, you can just come here and notice now, not downloaded, downloaded, started, and completed. So it makes it real easy if you don't remember that. The key is right here and available to you. about Exit Mango Supervisor. So this menu is going to change. This is what you see when you're on the main screen getting a summary of the entire company. Let's see here. Let's just tell it to refresh and see if it'll bring up some stuff. Okay, great. So by hitting the refresh, notice now that there's actually a skip stop. So let's say we want to drill down into this little route. So if we simply touch the route with our finger, R03, then we can see a whole bunch of additional things. Starting at the top, you can see a little truck up here. If I click on the truck, you'll notice that it will tell me everything that has been sold, as well as, what was loaded, what was sold, what's still available, and then what's committed. So you can see here now that, I don't know what she sold on the first stop here, but your sold quantities are increased as you go down throughout the day. You also have their beginning mileage. You know what time they started out on their route. So their first stop, they hit at 11. They checked out at 9:50 and drove an hour and a half roughly, and they started their very first stop at 11:17 a.m. So this gives you access to the same type of information you would see in the MDM software. Someone asked a question, do you need to have Mango mapping to see where your trucks are? Good question. I don't know that it's required. I think we provide those maps to you irrespective if you're using Mango mapping or not. Was there another question before that? I thought there was another one. We have an older version, but do we need to download also on the handheld? If you have a handheld that is already running Mango Supervisor, then the very first time you go in there, it should automatically update it to the latest version. Now, if for some reason it doesn't, if it's really, really old, 3 or 4 years, you might have to go into the the Android setup area and remove the application and then re-download the application as if it were a brand new install. So if the first time you go in it doesn't do that, then you may have to do that. And I'm kind of convinced if you have a really old version, i.e. more than since before last year, you may have to do that. So if that's the case, get the instructions and just pretend like you're starting from scratch. If you see it there, remove it and then put it back on. Those are all the questions? Okay, great. So those are a couple of questions there. So let's go back here. As you look at this too, you notice that this route has been started, a little green indicator there. And if I remember right, if you push and hold that, does something happen? No. Okay. A couple of these areas, and that's why the manual is really helpful. It tells you if you push and hold, you might see something different. The other thing that's kind of cool too is while you're on this, if you just slide to the right or to the left, pay attention up here to the date. So here's March 7th. I slid back to the 6th, go back to the 7th again. So what's nice is if you want to go ahead a couple of days and see, well, what's Tom's route look like for Friday? Well, you can just slide over and be able to see that. But now let's stay here with the one route that we're actually working with. On this particular stop, you notice that 2 of them have been done, Cushman and Wakefield and Performance Contracting. Performance Contracting was actually sold product to. You can see the sale amount here is $752. With your finger, if you'll just touch that, that takes you into the next level of actually showing you the invoice of what was sold to this particular customer. So as you can see here, it has the route. It has over here the date and time that they were serviced at 11:17 a.m., who the driver was, as well as the various products were sold to that customer. If you can't remember where that customer is, you can come down here, touch the map, and you'll be able to see what part of town that particular customer is located in. Likewise, next to it here is an email button. If you touch the email button, you can actually send a copy of this receipt to either the customer, which is the default here, or you could actually type in any email address. So, if you want to see it yourself as supervisor, you could type your own name in, hit the send button, and then all of a sudden a copy of that invoice, the PDF, if you will go to that particular email address. So we'll just go ahead and hit OK, and notice it said email sent. So when you're down at the stop level, This is the information that you're able to view. Notice up here, there is a menu so that you can, okay, this is the same one you've seen before. However, here, you'll notice that the color key is different. The color key reflects what's appropriate for the stop. Green meaning it's unserviced, order, high priority, etc. Speaking of high priority, let's go back up a notch or two. As you go back to the route screen here, you'll notice a couple of different things in the lower part of the screen. Let me grab my little highlighter here. Okay, the two different things that you see here are first, this one, which means it's a high priority order. If you, basically, it's just letting the driver have an alert that this order is important, may have been added throughout the day, etc. The next item here has a little clock beside it. This is part of a new function that we just came out with a few weeks ago called exact timing. In other words, you have a time commitment to make that particular order. Whether it's a service order or product delivery, really doesn't matter. But here, for example, if we now click on this, you'll notice that up here, and we're actually taking a look at this, it says it's due at 11:15 a.m. Well, we've already completed that order, so I guess it's really happy with us. However, had we not completed that particular order, about 30 minutes before the order begins, it starts giving us notification that you need to go visit this customer in 30 minutes. At 15 minutes, is right, you know the times on these? Okay, I think it's at 15 minutes, it also does a reminder. Then at 5 minutes before, when it's due, and if you don't get there on time, even more pop-ups will appear on your screen to say, hey, you have a commitment at 11:15, you have to be at that particular location. So that's what's nice about this exact. It really does help add emphasis to stops that need to be done. I'm not really going to go into that today. It's more of the handheld thing. All it does here, I'm trying to show, is the fact that you're aware of that. And if you see an order that does have a clock on it like you see here, then you want to see what time it's due and make sure that that driver gets there on time. The other thing you can look at too is, like here, we have Nintex. This is the customer supposed to go service today. Well, maybe you're out and about, know the owner, so he called you up and say, hey, Samantha calls and says, we really don't need any product today. Well, you on the Mango Supervisor screen can touch the skip button, and then it will actually, you can have a message here. Here we can talk into it. Samantha called and said they do not need any product today. Okay, looks like my voice to text didn't work as good as I'd like to see. Anyway, we'll leave with it. So the point is, that stop now, you notice it has been removed from that driver's route, and he will no longer need to go visit that customer, and it's been skipped. Likewise, if you're looking for the skips only, down here at the bottom, you have some buttons. So if I just click on skips, I see the one skip stop I have. If I want to see the ones that are completed, have you done any more lately? Okay, do another couple. And so here, for example, you can do that. If you only want to see which stops are remaining today, you can just click on the to-do. So these series of buttons right here just allow you to filter what's going on up here and not have to look at so much information if you don't want to. Okay, we're about halfway through. Are there some other questions that have come in? Okay, no other questions. So if you do have a question, feel free to submit it, but I'll just keep on going here until we have some other questions pop up. So once again, we're continuing to do orders here. I'm just going to have it refresh my data. It doesn't seem like anything else has happened yet. If that's the case, I'm just going to go back and maybe check on a different route. Let's clean off the screen here. Matter of fact, let's see, has Route 4 come online yet? I guess we'll find, or Route 6, that was the other one we were going to do something with. It doesn't look like they've quite come online yet, so we'll see what happens. Okay, here's a question. When they skip a customer, does that order go automatic to the other day? When they skip the customer, does the order go automatically to the other day? Okay, I think what you're maybe asking here is, with a skip reason, you can have it be closed or dragged to the next day. When you skip those, I think we completely drop them from the route for that particular cycle. It is not going to just show up again tomorrow. effectively, if you say skip, that means it will not be done until the next regular cycle that something's happening. Okay, so as you can see here, we're continuing to get a little bit more route information. Some sales have been occurring. Let's see here, Route 4, looks like we got one special order there. Notice the color. Don't remember the color? We can come back up here to our color key, and hot pink just means that there's an order out there. The hot pink doesn't mean that it's urgent. That would be bright red, but notice that it does pop up that way. Let's see here. I'm just going to go ahead and pick our buttons. Okay, you're still doing some stops here. What I'm going to do in the meantime, you also have the ability to take or create an order on your device for somebody else. So let's go ahead and investigate that. As you're here, you see the create ticket icon or menu item. Simply click on that, and then you'll notice that you saw it say signing in. This actually ties to the website. So this order goes out to, that's what the other setup information was for, to a website that allows you then to transfer everything around. So if you know an account number, you can type that in. If you just want to put in a city, you can put in, for example, I'm going to see if there's anybody in Everett, Washington. Okay, so notice that Everett, Washington. Okay, great. I want to do the Garden Court Retirement Center. So we'll go ahead and just touch that. So now I'm in the order entry area. So here, for example, first thing I'm going to do before I even put other information is I just click kind of it tapped in the middle of the screen. Let me just hit done and do that again. Right here in the lower part of the screen, if you just tap here, then you can put in the order. So let's tap, mouse, and then notice it says enter message here. Evergreen is totally out of water. Have guests coming before 4 p.m. Must have delivery. Okay, so I type my message, I hit done, notice it shows up here, and then I've got 3 or 4 buttons that I need to touch. First is I need to assign this to somebody. So I'm going to go ahead and assign it to Route 6 because I know that if he's not already on route, he will be soon. We'll go back and look in a second. And so I'm going to assign it to Route 6. You know what? He has to be out there today. So I touch the date area. I bring up a date. Obviously, that could be into the future. And then I have the option of indicating that it's an exact time, which I don't really have one. I could put in 4 o'clock. I'm just going to leave it blank for this one. And I can make it high priority. So if I click on that, it's high priority. Yeah, it's high priority. We'll leave it at high priority. So we have high priority. We know what route and date, exact message. Notice that you are not able to put in product here. So the bottom line is you can't say deliver 2. If you're going to say if they need 2 bottles and that's your message, you can put that in, but you can't automatically pick products and assign it to that particular special order. So all of this is just going into the message area. So I have all the things that I want. I hit create ticket, and now you'll notice that the ticket has been created. So we'll go back here. This was on Route 6 for today. Let's go back to the main area. So we'll go back a step. I want to exit the create a ticket mode. Yes, that's true. Let's go ahead and move back one more time. And so now, whoops, didn't mean to do that much. Okay, let's go back in. And now let's look for Route 6. Okay, ooh, Route 6 has been downloaded, turned green. So we went from yellow to green now. Notice that a couple stops have been done. There's 10 altogether. I'm just going to go ahead and touch that. Now, who was it? Oh, here it is. It was Garden Court Retirement that we had set up as a priority order today and added to that particular driver's route. If I touch it, I can come in here then and look. Since it hasn't been done yet, I can see the message. They're totally out of water, guests coming before 4 o'clock. So now, in a minute here, this will go to the handheld with RM Live pop up. The driver is going to be so kind to accept it, and then they're going to go ahead and sell something. We'll be able to come back in a minute and actually see what they were able to sell. So we'll just back up here and give it a couple of seconds to let the order get done. Notice in the meantime, there's been a couple of skip stops done. So the route's progressing throughout the day. If I want to go back further, notice that now my sales have been increasing considerably. So our guy on Route 3 is really going to town and selling up a whole bunch of stuff. Okay, who's the crazy person that could have bought $12,000 worth? Well, let's just click on that. Notice now, okay, there's a couple of big orders. Well, Obadiah and Bellevue is well, let's do the biggest one, Century Consulting. So now we just touch it again, and now we can see all of the products that person bought on that particular stock. So we're doing well. I lost my train of thought. Okay, so we have our total sales there. Let's go ahead and go back to Route 6 because that's where now hopefully our little urgent order got taken care of. Yep, that was the, who was it? Okay, Garden Court Retirement. They didn't buy very much for an urgent order. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and touch that. And now notice that the products that they actually bought are showing up here, and the urgent order side kind of has gone away because they've already been serviced. You can see that it's completed. Okay. Somebody asked a question I think had to do with what we were doing earlier when we skipped the stop. What if we want them to go to that customer but for the next day? Good question. Let's go ahead and do that example. So here we are. We see the stop. Let's take Cascadian Therapeutics, for example. So instead of doing skip, what we would want to do when we're on this screen, hope I get this right, is push and hold. Oh, that's the one we can't do. Okay, we noticed this morning there's a little bit of a bug here. However, if you push and hold that particular order, then it will bring up a screen, maybe you saw it there really quickly flash by, that allows you to assign it to a new date, time, and route. So in that situation, you could go ahead and choose it for March 8th, for example, and it would automatically then show up on his route for March 8th. So that's what you want to do then. Apologize, we just discovered this morning, but by taking that, I can't just do it kind of faking it here, but touching it and holding it then allows you to reassign it to a different date and time. Okay. Okay, so once again, as we've been going along here, we'll notice that the routes have been done. Why don't you just go ahead and skip the rest of the stops for Route 6 and let's upload it. If you want to do that, and we'll kind of go on to some other menu items here. The other thing that I mentioned earlier is the ability to give out a release code. So as you have a particular, maybe a driver calls you and say, hey, Jim, I really need to service this customer. They say they sent a check in 2 days ago, whatever. They can't get a hold of the office. So now we want to go ahead and have you give them a release code. So now we'll just type in part of their name. So I'll just type in FOR. Okay, so it's Forest Ridge was the name of the customer. Could have put in their account number if I wanted to. Reason for release, claimed to have mailed in payment already. Okay, so we do that and now touch Get Release Code, and it's saying not available. And the reason is this person's not scheduled for today. Let's go find somebody who we know is scheduled for today. Let's say it's going to be Washington Technology. So we'll put in Washington Technology instead. That way he'll be en route. So we'll do Washington Technology. There we go. And so now we'll put no excuse. Okay, and then hit Get Release Code. And notice now that the release code came up. For those of you that may not be familiar with this, the release code is only good for this one customer for 1 day. So as you can see here, yes, you read off that to the driver. He puts it in, able to make the sale. You can hit OK. Also, just do be aware that it automatically does add it to the customer information. So if we go pull up customer 2603 on the desktop, this message will actually be there. So do I stick my neck out and see if that really will happen? Why not? Let's go do it. So we'll pull up the customer, and we'll find 2603. Let's see if in the contact information, oh, here, look at the message. Release code for this reason, no excuse. Perfect. This is what you call super fantastic software. So once again, just like if you had given out a release code on the desktop, that information is going to get passed back to the desktop and you'll be able to have a record of that. Okay, I think a couple of questions have come in. Let me go ahead and address those before we move on to the next topic. Okay. Someone said, this is from Alan, what would prevent me from selecting Create Ticket in Mango Supervisor? It is not highlighted in the menu option and I cannot select it. Okay, so I guess you're trying to be really clever on us here and do it by yourself along the way. The problem there, Alan, is you'll need to go in here and put this web portal URL and email address information in. So if you want to reach out, I'll have Chris Jones call you. He's the one that will probably get you set up quickly on this. But if this is not set up here, the Create Ticket will be grayed out on Mango Supervisor. So that information does have to be in there before you're able to do that. Okay, I thought, wasn't there another question too? Oh, these are all older questions? Okay, okay, perfect. Appreciate all the questions and feel free to keep submitting them. Oh, got a new one. What's the new one? If the driver does not receive a full load order on the handheld he received it partially, what happens with that load order? Okay, this is kind of more of a Mango Mobile question, but on the handheld, if you have a load order for, let's say it's coffee, just to make it generic, and you had 10 cases put and he only received 4 of them, then on the truck, it would only show however many that were actually added, and then back on the desktop, it would show that that order was only partially received. And so consequently, it would basically not show it coming out of inventory and moving to the truck, but only the quantity that was actually entered. So it will kind of hang out there. I think you can then eventually do it or close it. There's a couple of tricks on that, but I'll have to I don't remember off the top of my head, but the bottom line is, yes, it can be removed, but you do have to do all of that on the desktop. Once it's been partially received on the handheld, there's nothing else that you can actually do there. Okay, we're doing pretty good here. Let's go ahead and go back to the handheld. Let me just refresh it, and then we'll go ahead and back up to the main area. So we'll go back one more level. Okay, so while we've been out busy talking, Route 6 has likewise been completed. Notice how it went from the light green color that R3 is to dark green, which means we're done for the day. So you can see there were actually 6 stops that were skipped today. And so now we can just hit the skips button. All of these people were skipped during the current day. Obviously, if I click to do, oh, we still have one order popping up there. I guess that's our special. So that should show up. And then if we want to look at everything. Let me go ahead here and just confirm that there's not some other items. Okay, there are some items here. So when you're on the individual route, now we're down to the R6 route, if you will. Let me jump over to R3 just to make it a little bit more practical because it's still out working. So as we go to the R3 route, there are also some other functions here. For example, we talked about the release code. Well, you also have the capability to either email, SMS, i.e. text, or call the driver. So now you can just come in here and put in a number, 209. Let's see, find some crazy number to call, 402, 20, can't even type today, 2044, that's Katie, we'll go bug her. So right here from within the app, then you could give her a call. Just gave me an idea. Why don't you write this down, Micah, that if it's to the driver on the route, that we have their phone number already in the system. And that's a good point too. Let me just pop back for half a second. We still got a little bit of time here to go to the employee information. One thing that you're going to want to do for all of your drivers is make sure you do have an email address here and over here, you have a spot for their cell number. And maybe that's it. Maybe this driver didn't even have a cell number. Would it have populated? You think it would have? Okay. Mike is telling me that if we would have had a legitimate number here in this particular area, then it would have actually popped up on the Mango Supervisor and it would have already shown there. So then all you got to do is hit the green button and you're actually off calling the person. So you definitely want to start filling this information, their email, their cell phone number, and then likewise, I'm sure we're going to run into the same thing if we were to try to text that particular person under SMS. Since there's no phone number, it's not going to come in. Otherwise, it would have come in, and you could just, so now we're having to type everything in, 20944, message, have a special order for you. Call me. Okay, so now going through the CMC, obviously you do need to be aware that this would use up your CMC points, so just be aware of that. Emails would be free. If you're trying to call the driver here, that is also free because all you're doing is calling from your phone to his. If you want to send a note, what this is here's your driver, and so now I can just put you gotta call me, man. Okay, as I type this in, Micah over here on Route 3 will notice on her handheld that a message is going to pop up. I didn't link in hers, so you actually won't be able to see it, but just hit the refresh. And now all of a sudden that message just popped up on her handheld as if the office had sent a message through Mango Mobile, if you will. Okay, so that automatically comes through. Can you reply to that? Try to reply to it. Just say, okay, will do, boss. Okay, I think the return message has come back, but let's just see. I may have to refresh. Well, that's no fun. Okay, refresh. And then let's go to send note to driver. Ah, there you go. So LC's the driver, replied, okay, will do. So this is kind of an interactive chat mode with the handheld using Route Manager. SMS and email are going through a more public system, if you will, and phone calling is what it is. Okay, so while we're also on this route then, see all the trucks. We already talked about that. Show the stops for this route. Okay, here we didn't geocode a couple of them, but for the ones that we did geocode, we can come in here and see where his stops are. So here, for example, stop 10 and 11. Do I need to squeeze down a little more to find the rest? No, it doesn't look like it. So I'm just going to go here to stop 10. Okay, so if you look really careful, I think beneath that there's another stop or two. Okay, so we have 9 and 10 both. If I just tap 10, for example, it will then come up and show me that that's grab technology. You can see where it is. Likewise, if I push and hold that, it will actually bring up their information for the order. That we just put this in as a special today. It says test. I didn't really make a note of it, but as we were doing that, the color, show stops for route, okay, whatever. The color being a light pink means that it is a special stop for the day. If I come here to my green one, then once again, it's following the same color sequence that we've done every place else. So now if I push and hold on that, isn't that good? There we go. Okay, I'm doing puddle fingers here. Huh, it's not coming up. Okay, well, I'm not getting lucky here. Point is, it would then bring up that particular stop, and these colors on here match everything else. Okay, what else do we have here? We have show stops for route. We have optimize. That's disabled, I think, because maybe this one doesn't have Mango mapping, but you can also re-optimize a route in the middle of the day and be able to have the stops be optimized from that point forward. Color key, we've already talked about that. Here's the colors of all the things that are on the screen here, different colors. And then the last thing on here are the about screen. If you're ever asked, what version are you using, you can come in here and look at that. And then last but not least, you can go ahead and exit the program at any time. So once again, what I'm trying to point out here, and we'll come here and, I guess there are a couple questions. So somebody asked, are the maps using Google? Yes, at this point in time on the handheld device, it's still using Google Maps. And then can we use it without zip codes? Okay, I assume this is somebody not in the United States. And if that's the case, then yes, you can use it without zip codes, but you must have a latitude and longitude assigned to the stop. So through our tool, you can go in and mark a latitude and longitude. I won't go into all the gory details. You can also do it from within a customer screen. Let's just go to a customer screen. Oops, I guess I closed it. On a customer, for example, you can geocode them by simply hitting this little red icon here, and then that will bring up a map where you can see where they are. If you're in the edit mode, you can capture it. Likewise, if you go, well, that's not where I'm going to make the delivery, you can zoom in. So the latitude and longitude are basically essential for every stop when you're trying to use them on the handheld. Okay, so you want to make sure you always do that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and minimize that. We do have another question. Okay, where does the release code go? To the supervisor or directly to Mango Mobile? The release code goes to the supervisor, and they have to, quote, call or tell the driver verbally, or I guess you could use the message sending thing here. So you could say, send note, Pete, here we go, release code for Forest Tech is whatever. And so you could actually type it and send it across to him. It just doesn't automatically go to that driver's handheld and populate in that stop. The reason we do that is because we don't know that he's actually still on that particular stop. And so I assume we probably could do something like that. But today you still have to verbally or send it to him so he'll be able to see that. Okay, so I want to believe that I've covered about 99% of the new features within Mango Supervisor. For the most part, unless you're creating an order or reassigning a stop, things are view only. So, you can see, for example, they've had these sales, but you can't modify an invoice or anything. My point is, I would like for you to play with stuff and be able to try things, just touch the screen, read the manual, because in the manual we actually tell you where all the Super Mario Brothers super button, the flower pot is and everything. So where things if you touch and hold, you'll be able to see more things. So don't be afraid to kind of move around and touch anything, if you will, other than the create order. You got to be careful there because that will send an order to your driver and you might confuse him if you just make up a stuff. Okay, somebody said they tried to use the release code option and never got a code back. Okay, if it comes back and says no release code, then most likely what that means is that is for a customer that wasn't downloaded today. So you're picking a route that wasn't downloaded or something else. If it's off route, that's an interesting question. If someone's trying to do it off route, what do we do? Okay, so if a person is doing an off-route stop and they're on the handheld, then in Mango Supervisor, you cannot generate a release code for an off-route. It's only for people who have been downloaded for the day and on route, or on route and downloaded. I think likewise, if you have them on route but nobody downloaded that route for the day, it also suppresses the ability to generate a release code for it. So BJ, if that's what you're doing and it wasn't for a customer that's being delivered today on the downloaded route, that's why you weren't able to see a release code. Kept coming back and say no release code found or something like that. Okay, I'm going to stay open here for another couple of minutes for some questions. Frankly, I've covered the most important topics that I intended to cover today. I'm just going to go back to my PowerPoint to make sure I hadn't left anything off here. Setting up options, first time in, looking up routes and stops, creating orders and release, seeing the truckload. Likewise, when we go back to the truckload, you'll notice now that product has been sold, so there's fewer things that are available, and that was it. So, any other questions come in? Don't think so. Okay. Oh, right. That was for release code. Okay, very good. Okay, so bottom line is we encourage you to use Mango Supervisor. It's a great tool with all the things that we've enhanced on it in the last 3 months. It really does make a lot of sense for people that are doing weekend work or evenings, being able to take orders, do things, etc. Excuse me. The nice thing is for the month of March 2019, you can download as many copies as you want for free and play with it. The regular price, matter of fact, we're having some kind of little special, I think, during the month of March if you want to buy this to use it on an ongoing basis. So the point is, this allows you to take Mango Dispatch Manager into the field with you and have all the flexibility of seeing what's there on your phone and being able to manage your routes more effectively, be able to view sales totals during the entire process throughout the day, etc. Someone just asked whether or not on the Mango Supervisor, can you make any changes? I think to like addresses or other information. No. Basically, you're just looking at the information there, other than creating and rescheduling orders, etc. Those things you can do, but other customer information you are not allowed to change. Okay, so once again, thank you everybody. This will be posted in a couple of days if you'd like to show other people on your team some of the basic functionality. If you do have some very specific questions and need help setting things up, let us know and be glad to work with you to do so. We appreciate you as a customer. At Advantage Route Systems, we're constantly looking for feedback. We appreciate input on any product, and Mango Supervisor is certainly one that we look forward to your input on. So thank you very much, and we wish you a good day. Bye-bye.